I'm Lisa, and I'm the mom half of this duo.
And I'm Shada. I'm Lisa's daughter. And welcome to Two Peas in a Plot, our little corner of the internet where we talk all things books.
We read across genres and love everything from underrated gems to longtime favorites.
And just a quick heads up, while we try to avoid spoilers, we do talk about what we liked or didn't, so there might be a few light spoilers along the way just to give you some context.
So if you love stories and want to grow your TBR, hit that subscribe button and join the plot. Hello, everyone, and welcome back. Today's book is The Lion Women of Tehran. That was published in 2024, and the author is Marjan Kamali. And I really enjoyed it. I didn't expect to be so fascinated with the book. I expected more tears, and it was very emotional, but man, I couldn't put it down. My husband would try to distract me just to make fun of me, I think, but I was clueless. We were sitting at the table together. He was doing something, and he'd put down his orange or his apple next to me and just be irritating. And
Did
I
you say
was,
he crinkled paper at you to try to
yes.
get your attention? He just
And
needed attention.
he just needed attention. And then finally I said, wow. He goes, I've been doing that for a while. And I said, this book has captured my attention. And it was historical fiction. And it had a lot of, obviously the characters, that didn't happen with the friendship with the two little girls, but the revolution and the Shah and the coup d'etat with the prime minister, that was all real, and it was fascinating. I felt like I was there, and I just felt for the people going through all the changes. Anyway, it was very, very good. The basics of the story is two little girls meet, I think when they were about 7 in the 1950s, and one family was very wealthy, but the husband died. So the mom and the daughter couldn't afford to stay in the house that they were living in. So the brother-in-law set them up in an apartment in a poor neighborhood. But Ellie finds a friend in Homa, and they are the best of friends. And then you find out, then I don't know how many years later, but finally the mother and Ellie move back to their wealthier area because she marries the brother-in-law, who she actually really truly loves. So that was kind of neat to see. And then you see their different lives go in obviously different ways, but then they meet again in school later on when they're in high school, I think when they're ready to graduate. And then the story takes off again as their adult years start. Anyway, it's just really a good read. And the way she weaves the historical happenings in Iran, it was really, really, I felt I was there going through everything. It was just such a good read. I can't talk about it enough.
So,
But
so is
yeah.
this kind of a, sorry to
Hmm.
interrupt you.
No, that's fine.
So it sounds like this is an enduring, close female friendship set against the backdrop of the Iranian Revolution.
Very well
Uh,
put. That's why I have Shada. I can't
that's why I'm here.
I
Yeah.
can't describe it. Like I said, I can't
That's
describe it well.
that's why you sent me to college, right? That's what
This is true.
if I do the most basic, non-praiseworthy thing, like open an email browser and click on
Yes.
something, she's like, that's
That's
why we
why we
sent you to college.
exactly. That's why we sent her so she can help us change our doctors on our
Oh yeah, we had fun
website
with that yesterday. That
and
was
order my plane fare tickets because it's just too much information on the screen.
it's scary. You're afraid you're gonna
Scary.
click on the wrong thing.
It's scary to fly anymore. Not flying per se. Once I'm on the plane, I'm okay. It's going through all that airport stuff.
Oh
Oof.
yeah, I can't help you with that.
I know. I wish someone could. I wish someone could be sitting on my shoulder and going, "You're okay. You're okay."
You get one of those like airport personnel that escorts minors. Just get one for
I
you.
need to get
Just
one for an older adult, but I think I
emotional
have.
support
Yeah.
person.
Oh, that's what they need. I just go to the first person. Can you help me with this kiosk thing? Anyway. And I'm always afraid my internet is not going to
I
come up on
know.
my
Oh my God.
phone. So
So
I
I'm
want
gonna,
everything in paper.
I know, I have to tell our listeners the last time, I know you guys have traveled since without me,
Yeah.
which I think is fine because all three adults in a very confined
Mm,
space can be a little bit much. But the last time we all traveled together, you had so much paper,
yeah, I did.
so much paper. I
Yeah.
figure the airport is gonna, I'm sure, has run into people who suddenly don't have access and they can work around it.
Well, I remember riding on the train when I would commute, and people who couldn't bring up their ticket on their phone, they had to get off on the next stop. If
Wow.
something was happening with their phone, the guy was like, you're out.
That's also our very, very rudimentary, insufficient. I mean, we have one train, we have like one line.
True.
So I don't know. We're just not, we have a horrible public transit system.
Yeah.
I'm going to blame that on our system.
I don't know. That's someone's phone though. The ticket not coming up.
No, I know that that's the technical issue. I am going
Yeah.
really far afield of what we're talking
Yeah.
about. I'm just saying though, like I'm sure with more robust public transport,
Hmm.
they have ways to where I don't
Oh,
know.
true.
In New York, they retired the subway cards just a few weeks ago.
Hmm.
I think that's what I could be
Wow.
conflating, but now it's all digital. So they had like a mock funeral for this card that people have used for
How
decades.
funny. I've explained the book a little bit, but I'm going to do a little bit of this or that with you. One word you expect this book to feel like if you were to read it.
Oh, sad.
And I thought so too. It was so engaging and so interesting. I didn't get sad, but I did feel this, it's almost bittersweet.
Okay, I guess then I'll revise. Emotional.
Yeah. Well, you haven't read it, so that's your first thought. And
Yeah.
yeah, I would have thought it was going to be sad, so I was kind of dreading it, but I still wanted to read it. So glad I did. It was wonderful. So the reading vibe, would you expect it to be slow and reflective or emotionally immersive?
I feel like those are kind of two sides of the same coin.
Yeah.
So both.
Yeah, I agree. It was emotionally immersive, but not so much that I was so upset. I just kept, I didn't want to put it down. It was really good. Book setting you love visiting through fiction, familiar or far from home?
Well, I'm a fantasy sci-fi reader, so it's usually
That's
far
very
from home.
far.
Yes, it's very far from home.
And I know you and I both have a love for England. So
Yes. Oh
I
yeah.
would say I'm going to go far from home also. And I enjoyed going to Iran in this, and the food sounded amazing. Some of it was familiar. I was wondering why I didn't hear so much about kebab, but your dad said that's a dish that they eat at a restaurant. They don't cook it at
Oh,
home so
that's
much. Isn't
interesting.
that interesting? Because we
Yeah.
have it at home all the time.
I
I don't
saw
even know how to cook it. Like,
I don't. I'm really bad. I need dad to teach me how to do
oh
the
yeah.
rice.
Oh
I
yeah, he makes the best.
I thought I thought I remember the kebab and rice dish with like the saffron rice. That's like the national
Yes.
dish of
Yeah.
Iran. Yeah,
It's
we had
so
that
good.
so much.
It-
Both dad cooking it, well, and you
yeah.
cooking it.
Yeah.
But also when we go to the like Persian restaurants
Yeah.
around town, we that
They'd
was
have
it. That was
kebab.
what we get. Yeah,
It
kebab and
was
rice.
yummy. So, stories about friendship, always interesting or depends on the mood?
That's a good question.
Because you
I
read mostly
always
fantasy,
yeah,
though.
but the strength of really good fantasy is in the characters
Mm,
and it's in the connections that they have with each
mm,
other. So I would say as long as the characters are good,
yeah.
then I can't remember the adjective used to describe. If the characters are good, then I'm always on
You're
board
always
for a
interested.
friendship. Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, not so much depends on the mood. I do always enjoy strong friendship stories
Yeah.
in a book. So, this sounds like a book you'd read with a highlighter or just soak it in.
I think a bit of both. I think this is definitely more, it seems to me more literary fiction, although with a popular fiction
Hmm.
tilt. Like
Yeah.
it's the the gravity comes from the backdrop that you're in, this
Yeah.
very volatile historical time. So it's not like it doesn't seem like it's a really intensive. I'm sorry, this is the lightning round, and I'm like, let me deep dive into this for you.
You know
But
what?
I
We're making it our own kind of
Yeah,
lightning round.
exactly. Like it's like lightning in very, very slow motion. It's like
Yeah.
frame by frame. So I think that this is one of those that you could just read and like feel the
Mm-hmm.
emotions, but then you
Yeah.
could also go back and engage with it and at a really layered level because I'm sure there's a lot of like juxtaposition and like thematic elements that like they're mirror images of each other and what's happening in the country and then what's happening with the friendship
Yeah.
and that kind of thing. So I think it sounds like you can enjoy it without doing a deep dive with like
Mm-hmm.
highlighters and literary analysis, but it sounds like it would also lend itself well to that, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I think it was really interesting. I'd have to stop and ask your dad, to explain certain parts in history, and I learned so much more. And then with the stuff happening in the world now in that part of the country, it just kind of breaks your heart for what the people have gone through after all these years. So, would you recommend, now that you haven't read the book, but would I recommend this book to a friend? I think I would suggest it to everyone, and then it's up to you to choose if you would want to pick it up. But, I'm not going to choose the right reader necessarily, but I don't know, I feel like
I
anybody could
Yeah.
enjoy it just for the friendship and what they went through.
Well, I also feel like there's a really distinct lack of Iranian voices
Hmm.
outside of Iran and in the United States, and the regime is so oppressive. A lot of those voices are silent. So I think, and then I think through a Western lens, I feel like the public has gotten more savvy to the fact that like the Iranian people are very different from the Iranian regime.
Right.
But I still think there's a lot of misconception. Oh my God, I remember, I'm sure I told you this when I worked at the tutoring center. It was a family that ran the center, and my direct boss was the daughter of the main owners. And they found out that I was Iranian, or I was saying that, oh yeah, I'm half Iranian, and the mom owner was like, oh, really? Oh, no, 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 no. Okay, it was double. They're very, very Southern. I don't think they've had a lot of exposure to different cultures. They were nice, but we had a family. The mom would always come in with her boy, and he would have tutoring. He was super smart, and I think they were Arab. I don't know like the country of origin,
Hmm.
but the mom wore a chador hijab depending on what on what country you're from, the head covering is called
Yeah.
something different. But she wore a hijab, and the the owner was talking to them, and they were talking, and then they left, and she turns to me and she's like, you know, why we hear all the time that they hate us so much. She's so nice. I'm like,
Oh my gosh.
oh, I said, yes. I said, you understand that regimes are very different from people. And then I think it
Right.
came out like, I think I was like, well, I'm half Iranian. And like, you've got this whole, I just couldn't, the staggering ignorance
Yeah.
on, on her behalf. But I'm glad that uh, she felt comfortable enough or just had no idea. Because if you look at my name,
Yeah.
you're like,
Mm.
some ethnic is going on there. So I'm sure she knew some something.
She was curious.
She
Yeah.
was curious, and yeah, so I had a very, very small little educational session with her where I was like, a lot of these regimes are really oppressive and their people
Yeah.
are would love to engage with like the US or with,
Hmm.
these Western powers on a friendly level. A lot of these peoples, I mean, they live in these secret contraband parties and they're smuggling in movies and they're risking their lives to exercise some basic level of freedoms.
Right.
And I just couldn't believe it. I was like, did she really just say that? She also, for our listeners, I so I got a really bad haircut. I wanted like a very specific kind of bob. This was many, many years ago when I was still working there. And it was horrible. Like it looked good when the lady styled it, but I think my
Mhm.
hair was a lot thicker back then and
Yeah.
it's very, very wavy and it was so short that it looked absolutely hideous when I went home and washed it and just tried to let it dry naturally. I had to get a pixie cut. I am a long-haired girly. I have tried shorter hair, like even just sh like, shoulder length. It's not for me. And I should have known going into this that was the last time I kept my hair that short. So pixie cuts look so cute on everyone else, not me. I absolutely hated it. And this woman who was like, oh, she's so nice. Why do they hate us? Apparently, she went to her daughter, who was my main boss, and she was like, I saw that Shada cut her hair. Is she a lesbian?
Oh,
And I was like, I
oh my
it
goodness.
doesn't matter to me, but I was like,
Yeah.
how like
Why would you? Ugh.
I just the level of judgment that is
Mm.
clearly going through her brain on a daily basis. I'm like, oh my goodness. I mean, they were very nice people, but I
They
mean, just
haven't been around a lot of different people from then.
yes, yes, and yes, it was an unusual dynamic,
Yeah.
and I couldn't help but laugh. And I do say I call my boyfriend, my partner, because we've been together for 10 years. So it feels very juvenile to say boyfriend at this point. When I say partner, and actually, I feel like it's a good, yeah,
Hmm.
it's a good filter for if I say partner and leave gender ambiguous. If you can't filter that and respond kindly, like I could be with a woman, like if I say partner, then I feel like that's a good barometer of like if you can't handle that I might be with a woman, that's good information for me. Then I don't care to engage with you further. So
Yeah. That's
that
funny.
was a very long-winded, but I couldn't believe that she was like just so blatantly like not maliciously racist,
Yeah.
but
Just
like
ignorance.
cluelessly racist. Yes,
Hmm.
this level of ignorance that showed up as like a microaggression of racism that I know she didn't mean it in a malicious way, but it was like, wow, ooh, you need some education. You
Right.
need to meet some more people. And I'm a
Hmm.
huge introvert. So I get that, but I don't think they were. They were just very much in their
Or just
bubble.
read different
Yeah,
things.
so to circle back, I promise I will get back to your point. I think yes, your inclination to recommend this to everyone is
Hmm.
a good one because I think
Yeah.
everyone could benefit. Now, whether or not they're readers or they're like me where they prefer sci-fi and fantasy,
Yeah.
but I'm also historical fiction I really love too. I don't necessarily go out of my way to read it, but
Yeah.
if it's something that's showing up in like the Amazon charts or like an editor's
Right.
pick or something and it is historical fiction, I'm like, ooh, I'm gonna read that. Like I read Pachinko,
Oh, yeah. I want to read
and
that
that's
too,
really good.
still.
But just yeah, historical fiction in particular
Hmm.
around the 20th century because it's so recent, it's still in living memory, but I don't know much about it. Like I
Right.
don't know that it's like once I got to that part in the history books, I was like, this is boring. I want
Yeah.
to hear about big battles and like Roman armies and that kind of thing. So the 20th century stuff, I was like, I don't care about this. This is boring, like the stuff that's on the 7 o'clock news at
Mhm.
night. But now I feel like all of what's happened in well, I guess in every century, but in the 20th century has really informed our attitudes today. Like it's so recent. There are policies that exist today because of what happened,
Mhm.
50, 60 years ago. So I think it's really important through that lens, but also, yeah, just to give the Iranian people a voice. And there was a huge Iranian diaspora after right before and right after the revolution, where people who could afford to get out, they got out.
Yeah.
So,
Well, you have to read. I want to talk about it so much, the specifics, but I can't. I'll ruin it for everybody. I just have to read some of the praise. That's what they have on the back of the book. Praise for the Lion Women of Tehran. And NPR said an emotionally captivating page turner about women's friendship and the fight for women's rights, a must read. So, Book Reporter said a beautiful, crafted, and subtle exploration of love, family, friendship, ambition, betrayal, and redemption. This finely written novel emphasizes the human experience in the face of turmoil. I have to read the inside of it. That's as close as I can get to wanting to tell you everything that happened in the book. In 1950s Tehran, 7-year-old Ellie lives in grand comfort until the untimely death of her father, forcing her and her mother to move to a tiny home downtown. Lonely and bearing the brunt of her mother's grievances, Ellie dreams of having a friend. Luckily, on the first day of school, she meets Homa, a kind, passionate girl with an irrepressible spirit. The two girls play games, learn to cook, wander through the Grand Bazaar, and share their ambitions for becoming lion women. But their happiness is disrupted when Ellie returns uptown. As Ellie enjoys new popularity in high school, her memories of her old friend fade until Homa makes a sudden reappearance. The two young women reestablish their friendship and pursue their goals for meaningful futures. But as the political turmoil in Iran builds, one earth shattering betrayal will have enormous consequences. Oh, it's just so good. I have to also say that a friend of your brother's, their family, they were German, or the mom was. And I found it fascinating to hear that I can't remember if it was her mother or grandmother. Um, they were they were there during, Hitler, and they followed him and believed him. They didn't know what was going on, but he changed the economy and they supported him. Afterwards, after they found out what was happening and that information, she never wanted to talk about it again.
That
She,
that is
she was
so,
so upset about it.
yeah. I think there's a German comic that I'll catch a few of his stand-up videos on YouTube, and he's pretty funny. And he talks about his grandfather being a Nazi. Essentially, he
Yeah,
didn't, but he was like, you can join the army, or we can shoot you, and
right.
you can be
Some of them
dead.
didn't have a choice. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think he said too, like he was captured in Sweden, maybe,
Mm-hmm.
and he was prisoner of war there. I mean,
Oh,
he was Nazi,
wow.
so he was on the Axis side, but uh, he got out after the war and he came back to Germany, and that's when he found out about the concentration camps. Like
Yeah.
they just didn't
They didn't
know.
know.
And he won't talk, but he says his grandfather will not talk about
Yeah.
it.
She wouldn't talk about it with
Yeah.
his mom.
It's very, very
It was,
interesting recent example of like this nationwide trauma of
hmm
like they just, yeah, and Germany in particular has done such a fantastic job of trying to make things right. I mean, they
right.
demilitarized for decades. They outlawed swastika,
hmm
which is really unfortunate. For the swastika is such an ancient symbol of peace and love, and then of course
hmm
the Nazis co-opted it, so now it's
Yeah.
like
It doesn't mean anything
it's
but
it's
that.
endured for thousands of years. But because I saw a news piece, I'll keep this short,
Hmm
about a family who inherited this house, and it has swastikas. It's in the
Huh.
US, but it's an ancient indigenous symbol. So cultures around the
Interesting.
world have you, and they're like, we know how it's been appropriated, but we're going to keep these here because they don't mean that to us. They mean this
Yeah.
other thing. And it's their house. It's like private property. Like,
Right.
but um but yeah, I do think that's so interesting that I think, yeah, didn't you say it
I
was her mother?
I think
Her
so.
mom,
I
maybe
can't
her
remember.
mother and her grandma. I would imagine her mom would be very young during World War II. So it was probably her
It's
grandmother.
probably her grandmother because her
Yeah.
grandmother had then finally passed. I think she wanted to go back to Germany to say goodbye to her because it was hard for her to travel. It was really expensive. She was like a single mom.
I want to ask you too, real quick.
hmm
The Lion Women in the title, is that a direct reference to like the symbol of Iran, which is the lion? It's like the lion with the saber.
Um, I don't think so.
Oh,
What
okay.
I got from it was it could have been. It could have been, but I didn't catch that. I just remember the girls having a conversation that when they grow up, Homa wanted to be a judge, and Ellie just wanted to get married and have children. But she ended up, Homa always brought her out to pursue more. And I can't remember what Ellie wanted to be. Obviously, things changed. Then the revolution occurred, and then let's just say Homo couldn't be a judge. but other things happen. But yeah, they just call themselves the Lion Women of Tehran. But I'd have to read the book again where that was brought up to know if that was what it was for. I
But
think you're right.
I think that symbol was to like the flag changed. The flag used to have that lion with a saber on it. I'll share my screen real quick.
Okay.
And I think that it changed after the revolution. Like it became the one that we see today. But yeah, like you can
Oh,
see
that used to be the
this
flag?
used to be the flag.
Oh, so what is it now?
It's more of a symbol.
Not the lion anymore?
Yeah, it's this one
Oh, yeah, that's right.
versus
Huh.
this. So it's same colors, but
Interesting.
yeah, the lion looks way cooler, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, I
Huh.
so the lion iconography I feel like is very
You're
like that's
probably
a very deep
right. Yeah.
ancient symbol of Iran.
As you all know now, by now, my husband's Iranian. We're going to be celebrating 40th year anniversary. We've been
My
together
God.
42 years. I know. No, and I'm 25. How'd that happen?
Yeah, wow, that's weird.
And my kids are like 1 and 2. I don't know.
We're
My
infants.
math is very
Yeah.
creative, just
We're
like my
also
English.
yes. Yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Oh
my
yeah.
English is very creative. I just felt more connected to his background and just have an even deeper fondness of the people of Iran. I've always heard good things about them. Wonderful food.
A very aggressively kind hospitality. Like
Well,
if you aren't
yes.
stuffed
Yeah.
and if you feel like you're gonna puke because you've eaten so much, they didn't do it right.
They talked about that social, I'm going to call it a social grace for lack of a better explanation, when they keep saying, oh no, have some, oh no, 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 I'm good, oh please, please, and there's so many times you must say that, and I may not be explaining it well, but it was in the book and it was explained well. But Ellie, I forget the word that they called her, that she loved food, and she wouldn't go through that social grace. She'd just say, yes, I want some, because she just loved food. And because of her mother going through the loss of her husband and moving to this different location that she felt was beneath her, she didn't cook hardly anything. So this
It's
Ellie was always hungry.
I looked it up. It's called taraf. It's you're supposed to politely refuse.
Yeah.
You're supposed to be self-deprecating. Interestingly, there false offers are involved too. So, your host might offer items they don't truly expect to give. Um, but it's a sign of respect. It's like,
Yeah.
"Look, we're probably not going to give this to you, but oh, we could do this for you." That is it's such an unusual, like, it's so different from how we operate. Like, I feel like
Yeah.
it's so embedded culturally that it's very polite. But to me, I'm like, stop playing mind games with me. Just tell me what you mean. Like,
Yeah.
but
I
yeah,
think
that
that's
is,
the American culture, is just kind of, I guess that's why we come across rude to some
yeah.
people.
But
Um,
certain things are
I'm just more
very
blunt, or
rude here that are not rude in other places.
right.
So it goes, I think
True.
it goes both
Goes both
ways.
ways. Well, that's all we have for today. I just really enjoyed this book. And I know for me and for Shada, there's a connection there, but I think you could really learn a lot, just how other people. This sounds like we've talked about this before in another book, but just hearing about another culture and what they went through, and just the friendship of the two little girls was so sweet. And Homa, I didn't know if I was ready to not like her at some specific point, and the more I got to know her, what a strong woman. And oh, so good. The friendship was really good. And I think this was a national bestseller, but she also authored The Stationery Shop. A lot of people have heard of that book, and there's one more book, but this was her latest one, and I waited for the paperback, which I got last year. So I think yeah, the hardback came out in 2024. Very good read. Thoroughly enjoyed it. Well, that's all we have for today, and we always appreciate you hanging out with us. Thanks for being here and talking books with us.
And if you love stories and want to grow your TBR, hit that subscribe button and join the plot with us, and we'll see you in the next chapter. Bye, y'all.
Bye bye.